Live right here on SportsGrid, Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi. It's pro football today, and the NFL postseason will begin. And later on tonight, we will see the first team AP All-Pro quarterback in action. That is Lamar Jackson. A very important piece of news came out yesterday that Lamar was named first team All-Pro. I don't know if you can go back and find someone who was named first team All-Pro at the quarterback position and did not win MVP. 30 first place votes to Lamar, 18 to Josh Allen. 2 of them went to Joe Burrow. So for what we do, before we even dive into deserving or not, Josh Allen closed as the favorite to win league MVP. When you see this news, Joe, are you now expecting, like many, that this means Lamar will be the winning ticket?
I mean, it looks that way, but again, I still believe that it's Josh Allen. I would still take a shot and say Josh Allen, even though he didn't play in terms of the loss last week against New England, right? He started and then got pulled for Trubisky in terms of that matchup. I still think it would be Josh Allen because of the body of work in big matchups, led his team to 13 victories this year. And again, I think he's deserving. I really believe he is deserving. I wouldn't give it to Lamar Jackson with the 5 losses. I just wouldn't.
And you do look at it whereas if either one of these guys does get the MVP, I don't think anybody's going to be so upset. That's ridiculous. I can't believe it happened. But different people have different ideas of what the MVP is. And I keep saying, like, maybe Lamar Jackson is the better quarterback and having the better structural season for him in that offense. But if you take Lamar off that offense, I truly believe they're still functional at this point. I think if you take Josh off of the Buffalo Bills, I don't think they're a functional football team. So for me, he's an MVP in that respect. The better season, it's definitely Lamar Jackson, though.
Yeah, I think what's fascinating is the fact that Lamar was named first team All-Pro immediately removed the odds, and books have not reposted it.
Correct.
They are not interested because some books can be opportunistic, right? And I'm sure they wouldn't mind. You know what we'll do? Let's hang them both at minus 115. But what I think would happen is if they did say, hey, we'll hang it minus 115 each. You know how the VIG is, right?
Yeah.
You would just get Lamar, until they had to shoot Lamar to a minus 300, 400 type of favorite. And then anybody who's holding the plus Lamar tickets would go, great, plus Josh, 250, 3-1, 350, and now we're clean and we wipe our hands from it. It is very clear that this is a two-man race. It probably always was, but it lets people know that Joe Burrow is not going to shock and surprise. It lets people know that, you know, there weren't many votes to the first-place quarterbacks. We've talked about how often that was the case. Not, you know, Pat Mahomes or Jared Goff on the NFC side of things are not going to creep into this. But it's a very tricky thing because Lamar winning, you said Lamar is very deserving of the award.
Yeah.
My issue is that wasn't true last season.
Right.
But
change it.
I know the game we're playing, right? I kind of, I was to a degree, if you would, embracing how the award was working. And now we're it works this way. It gets very odd. So I now am expecting Lamar to win league MVP. In fact, now it would be a little surprising if he didn't win league MVP. How different could the base of voters be for the AP poll and the NFL? The question then becomes, does it at all impact Buffalo? I don't think it means a darn thing. Lamar, been there, done that, Lamar, it's whatever. If you're the Bills, they see everything. They gave an MVP chain to Josh Allen, right, for Christmas. Mm-hmm. We heard that. There was a lot of chatter around it, Donnie. Do you think at all this is something that is going to be a motivator, a distractor for the Bills?
Neither. I don't think it is, because this is a team game. And the concept, if you ask Josh Allen, you ask Lamar Jackson right now, MVP or a Super Bowl. Now, you might say it's an unfair question because Lamar's run a couple. Josh hasn't yet, and he wants to get his first one. We get that. But they go hand in hand. You want to win the MVP and a Super Bowl. But if you had to give up one of those awards, I'm pretty sure that the quarterbacks would give up the MVP and say, hey, we won a Super Bowl. That's the end-all, be-all at this point. I don't think it's a motivating factor because when you're in the playoffs, man, your motivation is that really good football team on the opposite side of you that you want to be ready for. Like, I don't imagine where it's, maybe try to throw, Joe, 4 touchdown passes in this first game against the Denver Broncos to show I should have been the starting quarterback here who won the AP award and also the MVP. I don't think he gets that.
No, I agree with that. I think their motivation is beating Baltimore that you lost to 35-10 earlier in the year. You got smacked around in terms of Baltimore, and Josh Allen had one of his worst games in terms of that matchup. And obviously the matchup, if they meet with the Kansas City Chiefs, that you could beat in the regular season, but you can't beat them in the playoffs. That's your motivation, right? You get through that gauntlet, supposedly. I think Josh Allen will be just fine. He might be a little disappointed that he doesn't win the MVP, but at the end of the day, if he gets through Lamar or potentially Pat Mahomes in an AFC championship type of setting, I think that's, that rectifies everything.
So I think the problem that I would worry about as a Buffalo backer is kind of somewhat proven by what you both said, and I think what you guys said is totally valid. Well, he can just prove it when he plays Lamar. He's got to get there.
Right.
Like, what would be really good for Josh? If the Ravens lose. Not to get an easier matchup. If the Ravens win, the Bills are guaranteed to be playing Baltimore if they win. Right? 2-3, it would be automatic. There's already probably some level of look ahead, right? Now, the guy who stole his MVP, you want to get monetary, his $1.5 million incentive. Like, the last thing the Bills need is to be licking their chops and then look up and go, huh?
Yeah.
We're losing 17-3 to Denver? What's going on here? We better figure this thing out. It is a concern.
Yes.
It is, to be honest with you, I think it would be good if it's a motivator for Josh.
Oh.
I think it should be but it needs to be a wake-up call from what is immediately in front of him. Because Josh and Buffalo, after they beat Detroit, were able to coast a little bit, right? They played the Pats and the Jets. And he didn't even play the last game of the regular season. By the way, I was right. He should have went out there, had a drive, scored a touchdown. It might have helped. It couldn't have hurt. The one handoff and leave the game did not do anything for him. I'm just saying. It is a little bit of a worry. Let me ask this, though, because that AP thing, it didn't lead to a few things, Donnie.
Mm-hmm.
Lane Johnson.
Yes.
Immediately well, not immediately, but I'm sure you saw the locker room post a side-by-side of his numbers against Penny Sewell's. We all know Penny Sewell's a great player. Lane Johnson is a better player at the right tackle position. There's only one spot for first-team All-Pro. I think what's interesting a little bit is how direct Lane Johnson was, and maybe that comes with age, but I am better than that guy, and making a statement like that.
Exactly, and you want to take a look at the past histories of the Philadelphia Eagles with Lane Johnson and without Lane Johnson, what that offense does, that sort of tells the tale as well. But I would be upset about that, too, because sometimes you get voted where they're both great football players. Nobody's arguing that. But it seems like the Detroit Lions this year were that it team that led the way all through the NFC, and if you are going to get a bump at certain positions, Joe, sometimes they're going to put you over the top just by where your team was for the majority of the year, fighting for the 1 seed, and eventually became the 1 seed, and he got the 1 seed. But you saw the statistics. They were in Lane Johnson's favor.
Yeah, I think Lane Johnson's the better, player at this point in their career, no doubt. And think about this, offensive linemen, too, don't get as much recognition and love. Even though they're in the NFL, you want those recognition in regards to the All-Pro, being named to that team. They take it personally. So it's different than the quarterback, per se. They're the face of the franchise. For Lane Johnson, deserving better numbers, better, player overall, and has the better career up until this point. He takes it a little on his shoulder. We'll see how they play tomorrow against Green Bay.
Yeah, I'll just I'll throw this out there quickly. They say Jalen Hurts, the whole product of his offensive line, that all-pro first team.
Yeah.
2 guys from the same team, the Kansas City Chiefs. But we got to act like he's a miracle worker. He's got nothing by his side. Okay, interest. Just you're right in the data bank, little intel, all right, just take a notice. Somebody has to now. We'll talk to Doc next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Back right here on SportsGrid. Kevin Walsh with you here. It is Pro Football Today. Joined by the Pro Football Doc, Dr. David Chow, and the crew over at SixScore.com, but helping us out all season. Make sure you go to SixScore.com/picks. Get promo code SportsGrid in there. Doc, I'm sure you guys are rearing up for the postseason.
Oh, yeah. Wildcard Weekend. Don't have as many things as last year. Last year we had 4 clear winners, went 4-0 Wildcard Weekend. This year, the health scores are more even. For example, the 2 healthiest teams in the league play each other, Buffalo and Denver, in terms of 6 scores.
Yeah, I was taking a look here just across the game views on SixScore.com, and, as I kind of the green, the orange, you look at the boxes there, it's a pretty healthy across the board. When we start with the Chargers and the Texans, Doc, while Houston is not the healthier team full season, the Chargers come in with a few more names on that injury report. Quentin Johnston, J.K. Dobbins. What are you guys expecting from those players?
Expecting Dobbins to play, maybe less than 100%. Quentin Johnston to play. Josh Palmer, not so much, obviously. But I think a big key actually is defensively, Denzel Perriman. And, he's a big key to stopping Joe Mixon, and that's going to be a big deal today. And so we'll have to see, but I'm not sure that he's 100%, although he is clearly playing at this point in time.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to, see how this can all develop for Houston. The issue for them is, you're not going to be getting back a Stephon Diggs, or you're not going to be getting back a player like Tank Dell throughout this season. We've heard Detroit, Doc, very optimistic that they can get a guy like David Montgomery back. Quickly, let me ask you, is that kind of in line with what you guys are projecting at SixScore.com?
Yeah, even when they announced surgery, we were surprised. Why surgery and why is his season over? Obviously, that was backtracked upon. I think there's a reasonable chance Montgomery can play after this bye week for Detroit. I think it's a lean towards playing, but certainly if they can get to the conference championship, David Montgomery will be back. Alex Anzalone already has been back. The key there also for Detroit will be Carlton Davis with the jaw. I think Aiden Hutchinson remains a long shot even for the Super Bowl.
And then, Doc, getting over to Pittsburgh and Baltimore here, when you guys are looking at this game, Baltimore from the SixScore side of it right now looks to be the healthier team, but not by a lot.
Yeah, I think they are the healthier team, but, of course, no Zay Flowers, right? And Zay Flowers probably isn't back next week either. So Baltimore has to go a little bit with him there. TJ Watt's healthier. I think the key in that game, based on last weekend, if I can make a joke, might be George Pickens' hands, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what you would grade those, Doc. Perhaps not fantastic. Doc, we do appreciate you making some time here. You'll be with us again for the 3 games tomorrow, and we'll check in. We'll see how it plays out today.
Thank you very much. There are some more injury takes tomorrow that are bigger than the ones today. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll get right into those. Don't you guys forget, 6score.com/picks, promo code SportsGrid. You can get in there, all the information and analysis that you need. Guys, we talked a little bit about Zay Flowers, but to dive in more, the Flowers absence for us, where could there be some value? You know, Nelson Aguilar was out a couple of weeks. He's supposed to be back in this lineup. Rashad Bateman projects to be wide receiver 1. How do you look to bet that pass catcher room, Joe?
I would say likely. He's the next man up in regards to that. They like to utilize double tight ends, likely a better route runner than Mark Andrews. He's a little bit smoother, bigger hands. Earlier in the year when they played Kansas City, he likely had a 100-yard performance, right? So if you have the opportunity to use both of those tight ends in terms of the passing attack, especially in third down type of situations, you can maybe clip value. And then it's the running back, Justice Hill, right? Now back in the lineup, I believe 15.5. They like to utilize him in long third down type of situations in playoff opportunities, especially last year. Justice Hill 8 in terms of the receiving game.
Yeah, Bateman needs to step up once again. They want him to be that number 1 wide receiver. They drafted him high just a few years ago. But also keep in mind, like Zay Flowers going down is a big injury. That was supposed to be Deontay Johnson that could have stepped right into that role, and he finds himself on another playoff team, but not with the Baltimore Ravens. But I do think the ball gets spread around a little bit more. But Joe is right. Those 2 double tight end sets, they're going to be key, particularly in the red zone. If you want touchdown passes, it's probably coming from the tight end.
Let me ask you this, because I know Justice Hill is back, and I like Justice Hill. But we saw success with Derrick Henry back-to-back weeks, not just running the football, but getting him involved in terms of the passing attack.
Slow again this week.
I mean, do we take a shot with Derrick Henry receiving game? I mean, you got to break tendency, right? That Steeler defense is going to be looking to stack the box against Henry in terms of the rushing attack. Do you sneak a couple of passes out to him to see if he can get the big man out in space?
You don't even need a couple. It's like one. Basically, you're betting every week that he gets 1 catch because he's probably going to get 6, 7 yards.
I'm just saying, if you're going to get it, in my opinion, it would come early. Yeah. If you want to see if you could set the tone, what do you think, Kev?
Yeah, I mean, the number is 4.5, right? I agree. I've always complained that they don't use Henry in the receiving game enough. He's not a plotter.
Yeah.
He is bizarrely one of the most explosive running backs in football.
Like Big Red would set that guy up on 3 screens a game, rumbling. Rumbling. He would be.
I'm curious. Like, does he even have a reception prop in any of these books?
He does.
Yeah,
reception. I don't know reception.
Yeah,
reception.
No, but I'm curious, Donnie. Like, is he minus 180 to catch a football? Is he minus 110 to catch a football? Like, what do they do?
1.5 plus 160. I mean, plus 185 plus 175.
I'm going to do some in the break.
2 catches, Joe. Look at him.
I'm looking. You got me all time. I mean, we talk about it. If you're Pittsburgh. Early on, you're going to stack the box. And, Donnie, I said you should still run Derrick Henry. That doesn't mean he's not going to get his carries.
Yes.
But if you want to set the tone early on, especially first drive, how about you set a screen for Derrick Henry on a second down when they're thinking run, and all of a sudden he takes it 50, 60 yards to the house? I mean, that's all you need.
I mean, who would think Travion Henderson would get one at the end of the half? Come on now. Set it up. Yeah. Set it up.
The one name that jumped off the page a little bit was Tylan Wallace. Only because, like, if Bateman is now wide receiver 1, like, Aguilar to me is still, come on, right? You're talking about a 12.5 number there, potentially. That could be a tempting number. We're going to get some sell me something on the board. I know I'm looking at Baltimore's quarterback. We'll break that down next for you right here on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Welcome back in. It is Pro Football Today. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi. Sell Me Something Part 2. We already had Part 1, a.k.a. Lisi's Crunch. Mm-hmm. Come on, Joe. What do you got here?
Come into Joe, and Joe's dealership. How about that? All right? Go big or go home. I'm not selling you the Dodge Colt. I'm selling you the Ferrari. Not once, but twice. Houston, they need their big gun, and I'm not talking about C.J. Stroud. Yes, C.J. Stroud needs to step up, but Nico Collins to hit pay dirt, not once, guys, at plus 145, but two times today at 11-1. Look at that juicy number. Do you like it?
Twice is nice.
What do you think? Come on, you like that number, Donnie. 11-1 on Nico. Throw me the ball, Nico.
Can he get two? Maybe one rushing? How's he do? Break the tendencies that way? What happens if he throws one and catches one?
That doesn't help. Two receiving touchdowns.
No, you could get an end around.
Yeah. I mean, do you like it at the price?
I do in that I don't want to overreact to a drive, but Stroud played one drive against Tennessee. The fact that he found a way to throw the ball to Nico Collins 5 times and the touchdown is pretty remarkable there. I think Nico, he has a receptions prop today, I think 6.5. I am a little tempted. We talk about alts.
Right.
The highest number that they would give me on the reception ladder for Collins. I know he's an explosive player, but I think you could very well see a number of even short passes to their best option. I think 2 touchdowns is on the board.
Do you like the dealership name, Joe, and Joe?
Yeah, I mean, it is Joe Football Today.
Yeah. Look at this.
What do you got here?
Look at this one.
Big time. Ready for the biggest play. Now, see, Joe, who loves Nico Collins today, didn't have to sell himself for anybody because he always was taking Nico Collins. How about if I sold you? Forget about Joe's 11-1. How about another 11 number? 11.5 receiving yards. Deontay Johnson. This guy signed a massive deal just a few short years ago. Was in Carolina catching touchdown passes. Was a leader of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now an outcast from the Ravens, still finding himself in playoff competition. I'm just expecting one catch that's going to get it done. Now, granted, he's up to 15.5. When I placed it last night, it was 11.5. This guy's going to go 20. I think if he gets 30 yards, you are a millionaire.
I hope you hit it, Donnie.
I believe that's
I just remember the game against when he played for the Ravens and he ran the wrong route and he tripped. Remember?
Yeah, it wasn't great. His time in
found himself
Baltimore.
down the Texans. Now, how about if I say this? 2 touchdowns for Deontay Johnson, not Nico Collins. We going nuts for that?
Well, that's
What's
got to
that
be
price?
about probably 80-1.
You could probably get Lisi in on it.
Let's go.
I will just say, I think I prefer you, Donnie. Stick true to yourself. Root him to get 12, 13, or 14.
Yes.
Like, you're not
True.
rooting for him to get 15 or 16 for anybody.
Nothing beats when you're a capper, and let's just say you had your guy at 101 yards. He gets to 102, you send it out there, cash that ticket, and 15 to go. I got 105. Hey.
Should have got in earlier.
Yeah.
My number here, I've been alluding to it throughout the show. It's Lamar Jackson for 200-plus postseason rushing yards at plus 350. Now, this to me is the cheat code, if you will. Lamar averages over 85 rushing yards in his postseason career per game. The Baltimore Ravens are under 3-1 to win the conference. In what world does Lamar Jackson make the Super Bowl, Donnie, play 4 games, and not average 50 yards per game on the ground?
Yeah.
I have been a little interested in betting this Baltimore team to win the conference. I never got what I thought was a fair price. What put me over the top and made this wager on this Baltimore number is it is on the board. I hit this in 3 games. Like comfortably on the board. It would be stunning if I hit it in 2. Maybe, but I think that Lamar Jackson, if you like the Ravens to go far in the Super Bowl, for 200-plus rushing yards at plus 350 is an incredible bet.
You got to believe that if they're in the AFC Championship and the game's on the line, he tries to take the game over, not with his arm, but with his legs.
Yeah.
And that's a great value in terms of plus 350 to get to 200 yards. So the capability is there. You talked about it over the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's taking games over on the ground as well. So we'll see if it plays out.
Yeah, you want the good start today. You want the 60, 70, 80 yards on the ground, get ahead of the curve.
Rushing touchdown, each team 6 games, 125-1. Who burns it? Rushing touchdown.
Each game?
Each team, each game. Who burns it?
Minnesota can burn it.
Whoa.
Houston
Aren't you
burns
on
it.
Aaron Jones?
I am, but that's the reason.
Yeah, get at it.
All right, we'll be right back, continuing to break the games down on Sports.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
All right, live right here. It is Pro Football Today. Let's reset our 2 games here on this Saturday. Do not forget, we are live with you tomorrow to break down whatever we see today from these 2 games. 3 to preview for this Wildcard Sunday that will be on deck. We begin in Houston. The Texans host the Chargers. Quickly, Donnie, if I can get you to give me the roundup that you're seeing spread and total-wise across your odds board there. What are we seeing here for this game?
We're still bouncing between the 3s and the 2.5s, but those 3s aren't true 3s anymore. We're talking about half juice, minus 102s, minus 105s in that instance, and then the juice numbers are the minus 2.5s at 120, 115, and 110 across the board at some outlets. Also, the total that we know opened up around that 44.5. I'm surprised. We're down to 41.5 at most outlets, 42s out here. So I'm pretty surprised at that one.
Yeah, it's sort of in line the more I think about it, because we talked about, 8 home games for Houston. They've played some unders this year. I took the 8 games that they have played at home. They've totaled an average total points of 41.8 points per game. So maybe just some people thinking that, 3 points of value that, in terms of banging the under, we're right where we should be. You have 2 different teams. You have L.A. hitting on all cylinders. They've won 3 straight by an average margin of victory of 18 points per game. They're doing it offensively, have scored over 30 points in each one of those victories. We talk about Justin Herbert doing it through the air, 303 in terms of the passing attack over the last 3 weeks. I need to see C.J. Stroud step up. I know the books are heavily, but getting a lot of L.A. Money here. I don't care. I'm still on Houston. I know it's the underdog. I know not a lot of people are on it, but I'm expecting a bounce-back situation. They have won 6 games. They've lost only 2 at home. They play much better, I believe, at home than they do on the road. I think it's a bounce back for CJ and Nico through the air, and I think we get through this total. That's my best bet, but I'm taking the points with the Texans, and I think they win it outright.
With this game here right now, I think between Stroud and Herbert, that's one of the big questions here. You think about Herbert, he's been in this league much longer than CJ, but Stroud's the one with more postseason experience. Mm-hmm. Not just having the win, he's played more games than Herbert because he had the win and he went into last season. I know it's been a down year for Houston. I think what's interesting, and, I do my spread math sometimes, right? Now, this isn't applicable, but I just want to make the point. Pre-season, the Texans had much bigger expectations than that of the Chargers. This season has felt like a failure for Houston because instead of dominating the South, they're in the playoffs largely because they play in the AFC South, right? They didn't improve, and they are certainly so injured. So that is all valid. What stands out to me when I do look at the Chargers, if you go college football resume style, there are not a lot of great victories on there. They've played some close football games, but, man, if we're going to play a close game, a field goal could feel like a lot, which is why I certainly lean Houston plus the 3. But as I dove more into this game, I feel good about Houston scoring. The Chargers' run defense, I think, is vulnerable enough to allow Houston to get the ball to Mixon, stay in manageable second and 6, 3rd and 3, and feel comfortable within their offense. I think if you're C.J. Stroud, and Stroud kind of was taking the NFL world by storm over the offseason, 6 million podcasts and 8 million interviews, but I think he's going to be a little more comfortable here, honestly, for Stroud. I've been here before. I'm at home. Maybe, a little house money, play the underdog role. I think Stroud will be comfortable in this football game. It's another reason I played him over 1.5 passing touchdowns at a really nice plus 154 price in this game, along with what the Chargers have allowed through the air. I don't know if it's a compliment to CJ or damning of Herbert, but the more I got into this game, I would tell you I trust Harbaugh more than D'Amico Ryans, I trust Stroud more than I do Herbert.
I mean, the numbers suggest Herbert's more consistent, but I'll throw it back on you, Donnie, over the past 3 weeks. They beat up on New England, right, who was dead to rights. They beat up on a dead to rights Las Vegas team. So those numbers that they abused and padded over back-to-back weeks were against sub-500 competition. And we've seen Houston, I keep saying, better quarterbacks they've played very well against. Jared Goff forced 5 interceptions. We talk about what they did and how they contained Josh Allen to 9 of 30 earlier in the year, shut down Tyreek and Jalen Waddle. They beat them and the Miami offense 20-12. So they have the ability to step up from a defensive perspective. I'm just, again, I think when you look at L.A., I do feel they're vulnerable. I just don't think – look, Ladd's a very good wide receiver. Disley's a very good tight end, but they're not elite. This is not some of the best wide receiver and tight end talent that we've seen. So if you're just Houston, you got to believe in your offense and say, let's push tempo. Let's put the game on Herbert to trail and come from behind, because Harbaugh, to a degree, still wants to run the football.
Oh, they do. And it's going to come down in this game which team runs the football better, because I don't think it's centered around ground games per se. But you run the football, these two guys can really get out there and play action. And talking about that arm talent from the offense. But I'm starting to believe into those numbers, actually, for the Chargers, because late in the season, they started to get healthy again. Dobbins missed a good portion there. Ladd McConkey was banged up. Those guys are now back. And, yes, everybody's going through their bumps and bruises here as they get to the playoffs. But if all of those starters take the field today, we should be getting points on both sides of it, which means countering the other moves from the team, which would mean you take a look at the Texans on offense. If they're running the football well, C.J. Stroud's got a dynamite arm. Nico Collins deep down there. Maybe even take a look at his longest reception prop in this game.
Yeah.
You take a look at Dalton Schultz over the middle. Those guys have to appear and make amends and sort of push that football. So for me, I do like the point concept. It's going to come up with my best bet in just a little bit at this point. But I'm not looking at this game saying either one of these teams, Joe, has to be, let's slow it down. Let's run the football. You have the elite arm talent on both sides, and you've been game planning. And also, when you get to the playoffs, you save some of those great play calls for things that people have not seen before, so get ready for that.
Yeah, slow. It has to be great. Let me just throw one. Rushing touchdown and passing touchdown in each half for each team in this game, 230-1. Yeah. I mean, if you think it's good, we're talking about elite arm talent. I believe more so in this game to potentially challenge that than I do the late game tonight.
What's a quarterback to throw one touchdown the first half and the second half?
Yeah, they don't give that. Yeah. Here's what I would say, Joe, while I understand what you're saying. If you were going to bet that, I would bet them all 6 games. You only need one. You could probably bet them. You probably could bet it all postseason long. And if one came in,
it sets it.
You'd be fine. Here's what I would. I also took Mixon for 5 rushing yards each quarter, -115. We talk about the specials. There's always different postseason markets here. I'm sure, Joe, the answer to you would be yes for you. But I'm curious which of these you'd prefer.
Yeah.
To lead the wild card round in receiving yards for Collins is 7-1.
I like it.
To lead Saturday is +180. I know you like the juice, but the competition looks much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You got Evans, you got Justin Jefferson, you have Puka. I would take the 180 for today. I mean, I think it's great. I'm expecting him to dominate today. And again, a majority of my bets are on him getting at least 1 touchdown and 100+ yards.
Who's your competition today? Like, who would it be? Is it Ladd McConkey? Is it George Pickens waking up? Because you look at the Ravens, like, okay, Bateman does it.
It would probably be Pickens just because of how dead and buried he was last week, and probably Bateman, right? I'm not expecting Ladd to have a huge day today.
Right.
I mean, he's got to eat to some capacity. But again, if he's right around his number, I think his number is 71.5. If he gets to 80, 85, fine.
Yeah.
Right?
I think.
But if I think Nico could get to 1.25.
He has the highest ceiling, undoubtedly. Just to throw this out there, because now it's going to we better change the whole parameters. Saturday only.
Here we go.
Rushing yards, Derrick Henry -120. Oh, come on, explain. I mean, who's
Saturday only?
Derrick Henry against Mixon, Dobbins, Lamar. You want Najee at 39?
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
I'm just saying,
Derrick, that gets it done. 41 yards, leads it. Goodness.
Like Derrick Henry might run for 70 yards and cash that ticket.
He could.
I don't know. That becomes a little interesting there. We're gonna mix these things in. I agree, though. I think Nico Collins has room today for a really, really, really big day here. Let's hit a break. We'll come back. We're going to dive into this Pittsburgh game as they make the move to play Baltimore. Your latest updated numbers here and what we like in that one. It's all next. We're live on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
And because they have millions.
All right, guys, we're back with you right here on SportsGrid. Joe Lisi, Donnie Rightside, and Kevin. I got to tell you, it's been beautiful to watch these two, man. I mean, they just love one another. They love talking. They love chatting, and they've been in the zone today.
No countdown.
I'm
Do
putting
we have a countdown
too.
today? Do we even have a countdown?
No, we didn't. No, he's right about that, but that's okay.
All right.
That's all right. No, I did take, just so you know, I took one rushing, one passing, each team, 230 to 23,000.
Now, hold on. Is it a game or all teams?
Each half. No, just the first one.
It's just Texans Chargers.
Yep.
That's all. All right, let's get into this game here today between the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Donnie, I'll ask you the same as we did with the last game. Are you seeing 10 anywhere in this game? Is there any movement on this total at 43.5 last look?
No, we're right 44s now across the board. Even DraftKings popping up a 44.5 right now. People are loving the points here. And again, we're not getting bad conditions. It's typical. 30 degrees out temperatures, winds around 10 miles per hour, no precipitation. So you should have it pretty clean tonight. No 10s in the market, but every single one now comfortably sitting at 9.5. Here's the question. What are we doing with that 9.5? Is it going to 10 at all? Do we flash 10s?
Here's the thing.
What's the 5 point?
I think if it goes to 10, personally, I think they would get flooded with Pittsburgh money.
Yes,
I honestly think that the books to the point they can't hang at 10. I think they're getting. We talk about the public and we talk about tickets. There's 70%, 75% potentially on LA. There's got to be now, I would believe, 65 to 70% on Pittsburgh with the points. I don't believe that.
I don't. You sometimes have the counters there, Don. Like I can give you the FanDuel number.
Yeah. What does the FanDuel got at?
It has percentage of bets, 54% Pittsburgh, percentage of money, 58% Baltimore.
Across the board, 43% of the tickets coming in on Pittsburgh.
See, that's shocking to me. That really is.
It's not that, but I see that. I think people just look at
Tomlin
that line and say, that's ridiculous. These two teams always play each other tough. I'll roll the dice.
But can I tell you this, Lisi? There's circles you run in the timeline.
Yeah.
Like, the purest of like Joey Public, I don't think is on your timeline as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
like you know how sometimes
you get the average better. They open up the paper the old school way, right? They see 9.5. Oh, it's Tomlin. It's the Steelers.
I think they see the Steelers are terrible. They just lost by 17 to this team. Baltimore's red hot.
Yeah, I mean,
but also Lacey, like we're seeing, it's not as divided.
Yeah.
No, I know. No, it's just intriguing to me. I mean, again, when I think about this game playing out, and I said I would take the Steelers with the points. Have I taken it yet? No, but that's the way I lean. I don't really like this game as much as I like the first game. I'm going to play it, but I don't know exactly how I'm going to attack it outside the props just yet. I lean to the Steelers right now with the points, and I do lean to the under. But again, I'm going to see how this game develops. I don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers reverting, Donnie, back to that game against Cincinnati, and I know that that's what we believe. That you asked me, how does Pittsburgh win this game? They have to break tendency.
Yeah.
You need Russ in the area of 2.25 to 250. He's got to spread the football around. I need George Pickens to at least get to 80 or 90 in this matchup, and they need to score multiple points. They need to at least get to 24 points to knock off the Ravens. That being said, do I believe Mike Tomlin is going to go in and Arthur Smith with that type of mindset, especially on the road, knowing that they lost a high-scoring game 3 weeks prior? No, I just don't. I think it's forcing the square peg into the round hole, and that's why you want to give me now an extra point with the total. I'm starting to lean that my best bet is the under 44.5.
So I have over 43.5 as my best bet, and I'll get into it more over there. But I'll do this from the simple edge of it. First meeting, 49.5. Second meeting, 45.5.
Right. No, you're right.
So here I get 43.5, and you can say that the Pittsburgh offense has dropped off in terms of perception. The Ravens offense is the best in football statistically. You want to challenge whether that'll be that in the postseason? Okay. But to me, if you're betting under, you're betting everything that Lamar has been and nothing that this offense has been in the season, Donnie.
But like for me, like, even if you're looking for alternate ways where like the Pittsburgh Steelers, which again, I'm saying this, I don't think they win the game. 10 might be a bridge too far to try to sell me, but you're saying offense, we break tendencies. Right. There's no way in heck, it's 27.5, I believe, is the team total for the Baltimore Ravens. If they hit that number, the Steelers aren't winning this football game. Like, we're not winning 36-35 with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It must be lower scoring. But if I'm looking as a way to bet the Steelers up 1.5 as their sack total as a team, they better get that if they want to win. Lamar Jackson, interception number, I think it's a little bit plus money. They better pick them off at least once to do that. And they can still lose that football game, but you can still win your wagers. Like, sitting right here, like, what is their MO today? Because I know we talk breaking tendency, but it really feels like that front seven must pressure him, and he has a bad game, and they miss Zay Flowers, and Derrick Henry isn't running as much. That's the feel for me of how they have to win, not necessarily on offense.
Yeah, I think if you're Pittsburgh and you're the D coordinator and you're that defense, who do you not want to beat you? I don't want Double Deuce beating me in regards to I am doing whatever.
I know.
But I'm just saying. I am just saying, so you know what? I would take a shot, and you're right. That would lead to potentially you're over because then Lamar breaks out with a huge performance over the top. But I am not allowing Derrick Henry to get 5 and 6 and 8 yards per carry the way they did early on in terms of the primetime matchup against L.A., the Chargers, where I saw 3rd and 2 every single time for consecutive drives again and again and again. Because at 3rd and 2 with this offense, Kev, they're going for it on every dime. Now, let me just ask you this. If they get blown out, because Donnie's right, they get to 27-17, which is right on the number and the total, okay, it looks good. They get blown out of this game, 34-10.
Yeah.
What happens to Tomlin because he went down with Russell Wilson?
But the thing is, Tomlin, what has kept Tomlin safe is every time you look at the situation, you go, yeah, the quarterback's not right. The damning thing to me is not, is it if Tomlin goes, hey, let's bring Russ back. It's like, brother, why? This does not make sense. The reason why I said early on in the show, like, I am so excited for this game is what you just, like, I'm not letting 22 beat me.
Right.
If the Ravens go into this game and all of a sudden they go, yeah, we don't know how to throw the football. Sorry, calendar turned. I mean, that is that is so incredible. It is the best passing season. He's never been this good of a passer, Lamar, in his career. Oh, there's only so much time left. There's so much more to say. We'll get you these best bets next right here. It's Pro Football Today.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Pro football today, Saturday. The NFL postseason begins. Kevin Walsh, Donnie Rightside, and Joe Lisi. We have two games today, the Texans and the Chargers. Houston at home, a field goal dog. The Ravens hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers, a division rival, their third meeting this year. Baltimore and Pittsburgh have split so far. It is the rubber match, which is par for the course with these teams. A 9.5-point spread. That is a little abnormal when you talk about these two meeting here. Meeting number one, the Ravens road favorites. They lose that game outright. Meeting number two, a 7.5-point number in favor of Baltimore. They win and cover, a 17-point victory. In fact, what does today have in store, and what are the best bets for us to make here with on this slate here? Lisi, we go to you first.
Yeah, I like the Texans in terms of the matchup early on, but I still like the over in terms of the ball game. And that's my best bet. I think C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins get hot early, and I think they challenge that defense over the top. We talk about the success of Justin Herbert in the passing attack as well. I think Houston sets the tone, and they force L.A. to play from behind. Give me the over 41.5 in terms of the matchup, guys.
Yeah, two good quarterbacks getting after it here. And again, can't stress this enough. We're not worried about any conditions here in the weather. It's in a dome, fast track, two dome teams. They should be quite comfortable at home with some big play outlets here. For me, I'm going to go with the same game here, boys. 15 points for each team. That means the Texans and the Chargers. The why I picked the 15 number is because, again, 15 comes up, 20s come up, 25s. You can press it down, but field goals will matter in this one, I do believe, which means 2 touchdowns on each team, at least 1 field goal from each team. And I do think both of these teams get in the 20s, which will help Joe take down his total. But I'm not seeing a defensive struggle in this one. These kids are too talented with their arm strength. In a dome, they'll be throwing dimes. We're getting points. Both of these teams approach 20. We cash that ticket.
Now, a few things, Donnie, because we know people will ask this.
Correct.
Where do people get involved with that?
Bet365 has this prop here. And a lot of other books have those variations here. Theirs was 10 points, which who's going to go for that? 15s, 20s, 25s. So you can even ride it up higher. I just wanted to say, you know what? How could this game end up? 20-17, 21-17, 21-16. That way, if it is lower scoring, both viable options here, which I think you're going to be in throughout the entire game. But I look for a close game here. I think both of these teams do get in the 20s here.
So that was going to be just my follow-up then. I know when you play your team totals, typically closer to the vest, if that makes sense, where you prefer a minus 130 to a plus 130. But whenever you have a best bet, sometimes you can run it up the gamut a little bit.
And also to clarify this, too, because I was looking at either the Chargers team total or the Houston Texans. The Chargers were hovering around that 21.5 to 20.5 number, which I think they'll be there. But when you do the numbers, that's 2 touchdowns, and if you don't get that, it's 4 more field goals to get it. So I thought this was the safer route, figuring both of these teams will at least be approaching the teens, and you always have a chance at it. So that was my thought behind it.
Yeah, and I'm interested. Do you know off the top of your head what that 2020 number would have been?
It was a good plus money number, almost like a 2-to-1 number. Yeah.
Okay, so just something again to keep your eye on. But Lisi, quickly for you in that game, focused on Houston carrying the workload a little bit.
I
right?
am. So I adjusted C.J. Stroud, altered him 225 plus. I took him as high as 250. Nico Collins as high as 100. So I think I got that at plus 142.
Yeah.
And then I took him anytime touchdown at plus 145 and did the sell me something at 2 touchdowns at 11-1. So expecting him to break out. He doesn't get, I believe, to his total. I think they lose the game.
All right. For me, it's going to be the over in Baltimore and Pittsburgh. As I entered into this game, I expected to grab points with the Steelers and sit there and hope and pray. But I've been on the wrong side of that before, where you sit there and, luckily I avoided it week 18. I took the over in Ravens-Browns instead of the 19.5. Right. And for a while, it looked like you wanted the 19.5 and not the total. But the Ravens have the ability to extend. I'm not sure any team has more to prove in the playoffs than the Baltimore Ravens. With the Chiefs, they have nothing to prove. They won a lot, right? Philly's been to a Super Bowl. Everybody believes in Josh Allen. Lamar is about to win a 3rd MVP before people are sure whether or not you can actually win at a high level with him, which is an incredible thing to say. So the Ravens will do everything they can to hang it here on this football team. But Pittsburgh, similarly, is not scared of a backdoor touchdown. But they also, I think, having seen this Ravens team enough, will have some comfort offensively. I think they'll know that they need to throw the football more aggressively down the field, connect on some of those shots with Pickens they didn't connect with last week. This total in meeting number 1, 49.5. Getting 43.5 on this total now here with the same exact football teams, but maybe Baltimore's offense playing even better. I like the over in that game, and that's why plus 205 for Najee Harris to score. Simply, if I like the over, I'll take the goal line back to score at a 2-to-1 number.
I took Justice Hill, 3rd down back, plus 550.
That's all right. Derrick Henry scores, Justice Hill doesn't. We have a great night, Johnny. We have a great night.
We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck with the action. The postseason begins.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
The 2 guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What? How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.